Hello and welcome to Go Ballistic, where we look back on the weekend's Premiership action and also look ahead to the closure of the transfer window, who might be coming into Scottish football, and of course look ahead to the Old Firm game this weekend. We'll speak to Sunsport's Kris Boyd shortly. With me this morning, Derek McGregor. Derek, you were at Hampden on Saturday. Maybe Rangers' last game at Hampden. If so, they went out with a bang, 6-0 against County.
Rangers were terrific, emphatic victory, probably precisely what they were looking for ahead of the Celtic game. Goals, good play. Sluggish initial 10 minutes where they needed Butland to keep Ross County at bay, but overall very impressive from Rangers.
There'd been talk at the end of the week of Raleigh Matondo perhaps being one of the players to lead a Rangers exodus this week. Ben Davis away to Birmingham. There was talk of Matondo and Blackburn. Did he show at the weekend he's maybe got a Rangers future?
The problem with Rabbi Matondo is not being producing often enough, Roger. And when he plays like he did on Saturday, 2 goals, 2 assists, terrific, standing ovation. You wonder why they would be prepared to let him go. Obviously, factors like salary could come into it as Philippe Clement tries to, juggle his budget for signings as well. But I just don't think he's done it often enough over the piece. But I think the Rangers team that lines up against Celtic's going to be fascinating, Roger, because Philippe Clement, after the game on Saturday, could not guarantee who would still be there. Yeah. Even Cyril Dessers could go. Apparently the subject of interest last week from the MLS, and Cyril Dessers on Saturday was terrific as well, but
he can't guarantee who'll be fit either. No Robin Proper at the weekend, Leon Balogun off. Could that lead, with Ben Davis away obviously, could that lead to Dujon Sterling at centre half at Celtic Park?
It's an extraordinary injury situation at Rangers, Roger, and obviously Philippe Clement at the end of last season vowed it would be different, and it's, if anything, it feels as if it's got worse. Balogun had just returned and then gets an unfortunate injury. It's such a headache for Clement. And I feel very sorry for Dujon Sterling. I think he's a very good player who just gets put from one position to another. He has an option. That's where he finished at the end of the game.
Celtic went through the gears in Paisley yesterday. A start for Paulo Bernardo in place of Matt O'Reilly. A start for Adam Ida as well. Do you think Celtic obviously will be busy in the transfer market this week? Can you see any of the newcomers starting the Old Firm game, or did the side you saw yesterday, will that more or less play the game on Sunday?
As things stand, yes, I would see that happening. The team that started, Paulo Bernardo stepped up brilliantly. Obviously everyone was fascinated what life would be like for Celtic post O'Reilly. Celtic were terrific. If I was Brendan Rodgers, I would stick with that team that started it to go on against Rangers. But then, as always, it depends who Celtic sign this week. Do they bring in someone, as Brendan Rodgers craves, somebody who's an improvement, who is genuine quality? If that's the case, possibly they could go straight into midfield. Possibly if it's Arne Engels, if he's going to be, let's say, an £8 million signing, he may well trump Bernardo, which would be harsh, but if they're paying that kind of money, the guy's starting.
And is Kyogo, I know he's got the ongoing shoulder problem there, is Kyogo no longer guaranteed first choice status with Adam Ida at £9.5 million in the building? I
don't think he is, Roger. And I think when you pay that kind of money, certainly he can't be seen as a fringe striker. And he started, Adam Ida started yesterday. Now, in fairness, that could well have been more Rodgers thinking of the St Mirren side, and Adam Ida could trouble them more. But I just get that sense that Ida could also start against Rangers. Even though Furuhashi, of course, we know his record in Old Firm games.
And at the back of Brendan Rodgers' mind, all of the focus really has been incoming players at Celtic Park. At the back of his mind, is there still a concern about the Manchester City interest in Kyogo?
I think, and I'll stick my neck out here, I think Furuhashi will still be here. I think after the transfer deadline on Friday night, I genuinely think he will be. Again, that's the beauty of these scenarios. Who knows? There could be another Celtic player suddenly goes that we don't know about at the moment. Things could appear from nowhere, and the respective lineups at Parkhead on Sunday could be dramatically different from what we've seen over the weekend.
Well, Sunsport's Kris Boyd is now joining us. Kris, you were at the Smider Stadium yesterday to see Celtic win the game. That was quite routine. Brendan Rodgers, post-match quotes though, not quite his routine, almost challenging the Celtic board to give him some of this Matt O'Reilly money. And already all of the transfer targets seem to be becoming clear. Alec Val in from Barcelona, Gustav Isaacson from Lazio is being heavily touted this morning, along with the likes of Arne Engels of Augsburg and Matthias Bogusz of LAFC, who were mentioned last week. Can you see Celtic landing all of them before the window shuts on Friday night?
I'm just absolutely delighted that you've pronounced all those names for me, Roger. Well, I mean, look, there's no doubt that Celtic were going to, look to add to the squad even before Matt O'Reilly had left. I mean, I think, there's probably other ones in there that, and no disrespect to them, that they might be looking at, but they won't be wanting to make them their first signing after Matt O'Reilly's went, because of the amount of pressure will be on them. So, I mean, the loans one probably seem a little bit. What would you say? That, I mean, the left back area is somewhere that Celtic have said that they need to strengthen. The fans have wanted to strengthen. I'll say it and I'll say it again. I've been very vocal on it for a number of months, years maybe even. That I do think that Greg Taylor gets a rough ride from a lot of Celtic fans. I think he's maybe changed their opinion recently, but I mean, as I said, I've worked with him. I know what type of character he is. I know in terms of training every day what he gives you. He's one of those ones that until he's not there, when you go back a few months ago and it was Bernabeu came in there and they were struggling for that left back area when he was injured, and then all of a sudden it kind of turned. So, but there's no doubt he does need competition. But the loan kind of type deal might suit in that area. And, elsewhere, you've got to say that, Celtic are going to have to, I mean, they're going to have to bring in a couple, aren't they? I mean, we've seen the fans outside yesterday. Imagine they weren't winning trophies. Imagine they weren't winning games of football, Roger. What would be going on? They're unhappy with Peter, and I think he was pretty. Yesterday they need to calm down. And I think if Celtic have to get a few of the transfers done, it'd be true to his word.
Manager said yesterday, in an ideal world, it wouldn't come down to the last week before the transfer window shut, Kris, for Celtic to do their business. Are you surprised it has come down to this? And the only incomers so far are Ida and Bernardo, who were there last season effectively, and a couple of keepers. No,
I'm not surprised. I mean, I think we've been used to Celtic doing their business late in the transfer window, and that's been even when they've had Champions League qualifiers. I mean, they haven't had Champions League qualifiers this year, so I mean, I don't think that anybody connected with Celtic would have expected it to be done any different. You look back at what's happened in the club in the past, and usually if they knocked out the Champions League, they would sell a player to balance the books that way. As I said, they've got a Champions League money, but Matt O'Reilly, I think in terms of his performances, has outgrown the football club, or outgrown the league, shall we say? Because I don't think, I think a lot of times when players leave Celtic and Rangers, that you feel as if you're going to a bigger club. There's not many bigger clubs out there playing under that pressure. You might be going to a bigger league, a better league, but in terms of the pressure that you're under with Rangers Celtic, there's nothing compares to it. And I think Matt O'Reilly at the time is right for him to move on. And Celtic, the next one the rumours will start with would be Hatate as well. Another excellent performance yesterday in Paisley from him, an excellent goal as well. Kyogo's another one that's been mentioned, but you kind of get the feeling that Brendan Rodgers yesterday, the way he was speaking, he does expect a few to come in this week. And to answer your question, no, I'm not surprised that it's came down to the last week for Celtic to do it.
Heck of a business done across the city at Rangers. Philippe Clement, he hasn't hidden from the fact he needs to get players out before he can get players in. Kris, the likes of Yanis Hadji's still there, Todd Cantwell's still there. There are other fringe players still in the building that perhaps the manager would want out. Is he going to have to try and do something with them before he can get anyone in before the end of the week?
Yeah, well, I think the Todd Cantwell one's the one that probably everybody's looking at and saying, what he done or what he has done for Rangers in a period of time, he's definitely split the opinion of the fans as such. There's some for him or some against him. I don't really think there's been that consistency in his game since he's arrived that We touched on it a few weeks ago in a column regarding Matt O'Reilly and Todd Cantwell. If you'd have said a few years ago that both of them are coming to Scottish football and who would have been leaving for millions, I mean, the majority of people would have said Todd Cantwell. But for whatever reason, he struggled to deal with the Glasgow Goldfish Bowl, as we speak about. And there's no doubt that Philippe Clement is obviously trying to get him on. I think the Yanis Hadji one's an interesting for me. By all reports, it's to do with the contract situation. He might trigger another year or activate. If he plays another a few games of that. But I mean, surely, if from a Rangers point of view and a Yanis Hadji point of view, the agent might be in the middle somewhere. If he isn't to leave in the next few days, surely you can go to him and sort something that allows him to come in and play between now and the end of or the next transfer window, whatever it may be. Because we've seen Yanis Hadji, both feet. He can score goals. He can create. He was at the Euros as well. He's a good player. But this situation right now isn't helping anyone. And if Rangers don't get him out the door, or if Yanis Hadji decides not to go, which he's entitled to do, he's got a contract. I'd like to think that the Rangers hierarchy, the manager, Yanis Hadji and his agent could hopefully sit down around a table and thrash something out that allows him to play, because nobody wants this situation. I mean, I think it's clear to see that his future might lie elsewhere. But is that simply because of this clause in his contract? Because if it is, then you would like to think that common sense would prevail, take it out, and it allows him to go and play football between now and at least January.
It's a crazy week for the big two. There's a Champions League draw for Celtic on Thursday. There's a Europa League draw for Rangers on Friday. And then the first Old Firm game of the season. You'll be there on Sunday lunchtime. Is it possible for newcomers, guys who might sign at 10 o'clock on Friday night, to go into a fixture like that? Or do you expect the 2-11s on Sunday to more or less mirror what you saw at the weekend there?
Well, I think Celtic will definitely mirror what we saw at the weekend. Rangers off the back of a 6-0 victory as well. It's very difficult to change that. I get the fact that you're going away from home. You're going to Celtic Park, a ground that's not been kind to you over the last few years. If Rangers have to get players in, then there might be an opportunity for them to maybe change a few things up. But listen, we can't criticise Rangers for playing badly or. And then when they do play well, look at the opposition and say, it was because of the opposition. Yes, that contributed to it, but you've got to say, I thought Rangers were excellent on Saturday. The way they went about their business, there was some positive performances in there. Cyril Dessers getting another 2 goals, Rabbi Matondo getting 2 goals, Tom Lawrence, I thought. And also, Roger, having watched the game back, Jeffy at left back, I thought, put in a decent performance as well. Albeit, look, it's going to be a total different challenge for him going to Celtic Park. Do we see Sterling going to left back and maybe Jeffy one up, maybe a little bit more cautious? We don't know what's going to happen with Rabbi Matondo between now and Friday, the transfer. He's been another one's been linked and moves away. Balogun off injured, proper, what's happening there? Sterling might have to fill in at centre back. So, I mean, Rangers, if they get a few players in, there's more likely to be change in the Rangers team than what there is the Celtic starting lineup. I think if there has to be any changes in the Celtic one, it'll be, does Kyogo come back in for Ida? Maybe. Does Kuhn come in for maybe James Forrest? Maybe. But as I said, it will be players, for me anyway, I think it will be players that have been at Celtic Park for a number of months now that will take to the field on Sunday. But for Rangers, as I said, there might be players leave. I think Philippe Clement has said that everyone is still for sale. And if they get a decent offer for the players they're trying to move on, then that's exactly what they'll do. But as I said, Rangers, considering their inconsistency up until now, you could look at Saturday's performance, and I think take the opposition out of it from a Rangers point of view, it was probably the best 90 minutes of the season, albeit there was a little at the start. Ross County had a little chance, another great save for Jack Butland. But that's what he's there for, Roger, to make saves.
Boyd, that's great. Thank you very much. As ever, we've got a big week. We'll probably speak to you later in the week as it's all unfolding. All the best.
Cheers.
We will, of course, be with you every step of the way this week. It's a chaotic week. There's a Champions League draw on Thursday. There's a Conference League and Europa League draw on Friday. There's a Scotland squad announced. Remember Steve Clark? Remember him? He'll be back to tell us all about the Scotland squad tomorrow. An Old Firm game at the weekend. We will be back with Go Ballistic this Friday to look ahead to the weekend's Premiership action. But we'll be with you all week. When there's breaking news, we will be here. Stay on all the Scottish Sun Sport platforms. And of course, subscribe to the Scottish Sun YouTube channel for all the latest up-to-date video on the most chaotic week of the Scottish football season.